ban-the-box legislation prohibiting private sector employers from asking about criminal convictions on job applications. Why? Why not? I'll begin with Mr. Gray.
I do support banning the box. I have supported banning the box, and I support it because I think we've got a lot of people who are returning to this city who have offenses and they pay their debt to society. I don't want to see people judged simply on the basis of a criminal record initially. I want people to have a chance to put their qualifications, their credentials on the table. Now, once they are determined to be qualified for a job, we then, will be able to look at whether the job involves the question of people having a criminal record and somehow interfering with their ability to work. Let me take an example. If there's someone who would be working with children who has a criminal offense involving children, obviously we wouldn't want that. So yes, I banned the box. I voted for banning the box, and then I would put the criminal record, such as there is one, on the table when the person is being offered a job.
Thank you. Mr. Wells?
My vision for our city is that everyone has an equal opportunity to participate, stay, and fully engage in our city. I introduced a bill. I've introduced a bill to ban the box. Had a long meeting on it today. We're going to make it a good bill. We're going to pass the bill. We're going to pass it with at least 9 votes. We're going to be sure it's a veto-proof bill. We are going to ban the box in the District of Columbia, give everyone an equal opportunity to get a job. They pay their debt. We have over 8,000 returning citizens per year. And that is 8,000 people that need an equal opportunity in our great city. Thank you.
Mr. Peralta?
I absolutely support the ban-the-box legislation in theory and in fact, because that's what we do in our place. When we first started my place, Busboys and Poets, we had a box where people had to check off. We had bought the application from Staples, and it had on it to check off. When we realized how detrimental this issue was, we immediately removed it, and now we don't ask that question. And I think it's really brought us some great people, and we find out later that someone may have been incarcerated or is a returning citizen. The bigger issue here, we have 60,000 returning citizens in this city, and many of them don't have the support they need in order for them to be able to succeed, to get jobs and keep jobs. The problem we have right now is that of the 60,000 returning citizens, when they come back, they're handed directions to a homeless shelter and a bag of goodies. The problem you have is that the Office of Returning Citizens Affairs only has $286,000 in its budget. Now, I know that they can refer people to other things, but we need to have a lot more money to be able to support 10% of our population.
Thank you.
Clearly, if you've been following this issue, you would know that Councilmember Marion Barry and I have been out front on this issue for a very long time. And it's amazing how when election season comes up, and everybody wants to introduce a bill. But it's a bill we fought for, and council voted it down. And I can also tell you that the Office of Returning Citizens, clearly, $286,000, really they just have a couple of people and pays their benefits, and that's it. I've introduced a bill that would set aside $10 million to create a fund for our returning citizens where they would actually be trained, provide an opportunity to start their own jobs, and things of that nature. We hope that Councilmember Wells will hold a hearing on that bill so we can actually do something real for the returning citizens. Because at the end of the day, you have to have some money on the table so you can be trained and prepared in order to be assimilated back into this community.
Ms. Phillips?
All you have to do is just be out, talking with residents in the District of Columbia, and when you're asking them for their vote, and then they tell you the heartbreaking story, sometimes very quietly, that they cannot vote, or they're returning. But what they then tell you is that they just are looking for a fair shot. And under my administration, that's what we will be giving to those returning citizens. So would I support that? Absolutely. But one of the things is that I know that we have to continue to work with families. We have to work with the moms and the dads, because all the fair shot that they are looking for is to become productive citizens. And in becoming productive citizens, they will need the type of training and skills and vocational workforce development programs that is so sorely needed for those types of individuals who are our own relatives, family, friends, and neighbors. And so all moms and dads want is just to make sure that we treat those individuals with respect and dignity that they deserve.
Thank you very much. Last question, which if we get through, as I think we will, keep us right on time, completing what I said we would. It's a 2-minute answer. County of Henderson has recently formed a task force to reduce standardized testing in DC public schools. What are your views on the use of standardized tests? Begin that with Mr. Wells.
I think we've gone way too far in standardized testing. That when we measure a school by just its test score, we miss everything else. The most important measure of a school is where does a parent trust to send your child to school. Nobody knows the test scores of Sidwell Friends, but everybody would love to send their children to school with the president's children. Test scores are an audit for parents to see about the choice they made. It should be a tool for the school to see how a child is doing, and what they need is to hand that child next to the next teacher. But it is also an evaluation of how the school is doing, but the standardized testing has gone too far. And finally, one of the things that it's done is that it has done nothing to address the fact that what we need, a great city has to have an elementary school in walking distance to every child and family in the district. Under this administration, we've been closing schools. We closed another elementary school. We're putting children on buses for the first time in years. That cannot happen because that is a failure. I know we can do it because I've done it in Ward 6. We're adding 3 elementary schools in Ward 6. Families are staying there. Don't say it's gentrification. We have more public housing in Ward 6 than any other ward in the city. It's about working with families, working with parents, and asking them what they want. Now, let me also say, I've done that in concert with Ty Henderson, with Michelle Reed, and before that with Dr. Janey. It's about leadership at the top. Sometimes it doesn't matter who the chancellor is. It's about having a mayor that sets a vision, puts their shoulder to the wheel, and changes education and their head of education for the city, regardless who the other players are. And that's what I'll do. We'll have a school system, and I think we can have the best school system of any city in the country. The ingredients are there, but it takes leadership.
Not only does it take leadership, it takes total 100% commitment with the plan. Standardized testing is just one measure that all educators tell us is to talk about the success that students have. And we know we have to have something, but it cannot be the only indicator. Because right now we see, not just here in the United States, but anywhere we travel, that it's really now about the student as a whole. Can they fit critically? What are the measures that they need in order to be successful? And so I believe that every school, every neighborhood should have a great school. Absolutely. We should not be busing students. We should not be making, having moms and dads wake up early in the morning. But you know what? One of the things that I've seen is that a parent, many who are my friends, will go anywhere to put their kid in a great school. And so from a public school perspective, not only should we be putting our money at that 0 to 8, we really have got to look at the 8th graders and people who are moving now into junior high. We have to look at our high schools because we now have pretty buildings, but what's inside of the buildings when we have graduation rates that are some of the highest in the country? We have truancy rates that are the highest in the country. And so what I would say is that calling upon all parties in the private sector, calling upon residents and citizens that are sitting right here in this room, to say that we really need to take action to move our education system forward, and for once and for all, really get it done, and make us the city that we can be proud of. Because we cannot be proud if we don't have community where schools are at the forefront, because it is the productivity of those things that is going to make sure that all of us are prepared for the competitiveness that we prepared.
Mr. Shalom?
Thank you very much. You know, our school system is broken here. We have more educated people per square inch in this city, more college degrees than any other city around the country. Yet, our school system is still broken. We have, our dropout rate in some wards is over 60%. Our functional illiteracy rate in some wards is over 50%. And if we were a state, our schools would be number 51. That is not a record to be proud of. We have gone from no child left behind, to no kid left untested, to no teacher left unstressed. And we still haven't improved our school system. The issue with standardized testing is anybody who has more than one child understands a standardized test does not really judge your kid's ability to do anything. That oftentimes a standardized test is there just to be some bureaucrat. And that's not acceptable. That's not a way to be able to teach our kids. I believe that we have gone way too far with this so-called education reform. We have gone into a tear on closing schools, and when you close a school, you shut out a community. And that's not acceptable. If I'm mayor, I'll make sure that we don't close any more schools. I'll make sure that the public gets some say in what happens to the schools, and there's transparency, so that when something does happen, they're able to say why it happened and be able to buy into it, because you need that element. That's one leg of the chair that has to be in there, the public, and they've been left out of this. We spend a lot of money on our school system, and we don't have very good results. So yes, I do believe we overemphasize standardized testing. It doesn't mean you have to remove standardized testing. But putting all the emphasis on standardized testing does not make for better schools. I ask you on April 1st to vote Andy Shalal. I promise you that school reform will be real. Thank you.
Mr. Lynch.
I think the key to improving our school system starts right at the beginning. And we must meet our children where they are. Our 3 and 4-year-olds must be prepared for kindergarten. But we must assess at 3. It could be the child needs glasses because he can't see the words on the book. Could be that the child needs a hearing aid because he can't hear the teacher. We need to assess the child where the child is. And maybe it's a problem at home. But we need to make sure that our 3 and 4-year-olds are prepared for kindergarten. And then from kindergarten to 3rd grade, we must ensure that our children are prepared and can read independently upon entering the 4th grade. That they can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So I believe the standardized testing, the key test, is in the 4th grade. Because our country builds their correctional system off of who can read in the 3rd and 4th grade. And the United States Department of Education is on record that a child that cannot read independently and cannot add, subtract, multiply, or divide, more likely than not, will make contact with the criminal justice system. So you can't wait until the 8th grade. That's when we have our truancy problems, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Because the child finds out they've been left behind. If you cannot add, subtract, multiply, and divide, how can I introduce you to decimals? How can I introduce you to algebra? If you haven't learned to read, when the curriculum changes in the 4th grade, reading to learn, then you can't learn because you don't know how to read. So that's where the problem lies. And so we need to meet our children where they are, assess them, and let's do them proper by treating them in the beginning and not waiting until they get to the 4th and 5th grade. Then you want to jump in and say, oh, we got to work on our 8th graders, or we got to work on our 9th graders. That's not the key. Everybody wants to talk about, school boundaries and how pretty the school is, but if you really look at it, no one really talks about the report yesterday that came out that says that only 13% of our low-income families where the children are reading proficiently, and they can ask, subtract, multiply, and divide.
Okay.
On the reverse, 87% of them can't read.
Okay, Mr. Gray.
Well, I think we should start some of these statements that we've heard once upon a time. But let's be honest with ourselves. Did anybody hear Arnie Duncan speak last week? Did anybody hear the President of the United States speak last night in his State of the Union address? Arnie Duncan last week, the Secretary of Education, one of the best that we've ever had in that job, said that the District of Columbia is doing the best in the nation. We had Nate And what they said was the District of Columbia, using standardized test scores, the District of Columbia is showing the greatest improvement in the nation of any state. The following month, the Tudor scores came out. The Tudor scores of the Tri-Urban District Assessment that measures progress in large cities. Among all the large cities in the nation, the District of Columbia has shown the greatest improvement. And the fact of the matter is that when you look at what we're doing with early childhood education, that's the investment that we are making. We now have 70% of our 3-year-olds, 92% of our 4-year-olds who are in school. We just invested another $11 million in our infants and toddlers in the District of Columbia in order to recognize early childhood education ultimately is one of the important answers. We are developing with 9 other states a kindergarten entry assessment process that will determine whether a child is ready, not when you get to the 3rd or 4th or 9th grade and all that, whether a child is ready in the kindergarten to be able to move forward. In the course of it, we are introducing wraparound services that support our kids. We are introducing a host of other services. It isn't just about nice buildings, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the services that are provided to our children.
I want to thank all of the mayoral candidates who are joining us tonight, and all of the other candidates. Just one thing I want to say that I'm sure was not intentional. This is not DC for democracy. It's partly DC for democracy, but we have 5 co-sponsoring progressive organizations.
Mayoral candidates to be front runners. Mayoral Bouncer, it's a city council person from Ward 4, and Jack Evans, a city council
Thank you all for coming.
member from Ward 2, skipped this event. So 2 of the main candidates, probably the second attendance down, did not show.